Crude oil prices, meanwhile, up better than 3% over concerns over possible U.S. military action against Iran. Take a look at where we stand this morning after that move higher yesterday. Crude oil this morning at $64.71 a barrel. That is down 1%. The president warning Iran an armada is moving toward the country, urging Tehran to make a deal on its nuclear program and stop the killings or face a major military attack. Meanwhile, oil producer Chevron is set to boost exports of Venezuelan crude oil to the United States to some 300,000 barrels a day beginning in March. Chevron CEO Mike Wirth will be my special guest Monday morning right here on Mornings with Maria at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Don't miss that interview coming up. But first, let's get the details from the U.S. Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, in studio right now. Secretary, great to see you.
Great to see you, Maria.
Thank you so much for being here, and I'm happy to be able to talk about so much. We were just talking about rare earths with Barbara Humpton from USA Rare Earth. I want to get your take on mining. But let's start here because the Interior oversees nearly 27% of America's oil production. Tell us your thoughts on the plans to tap into our energy capacity and what you can do at the Interior.
Well, the things we have been doing at the Interior is following President Trump's great strategic vision. He sums it up simply as drill, baby, drill. But that was, let's get the supply increased. It's hard to believe it was just a year ago that under President Biden, we had a ban on U.S. exports on LNG. And now the United States, #1 LNG producer, exporter in the world. I mean, larger than number 2 and 3 and 4 combined. Oil production, U.S., larger than number 2 and 3 combined. So the U.S. really executing on an energy dominance, energy abundance strategy, which allows us to sell energy to our friends and allies so they don't have to buy it from our adversaries. Because, as you know, President Trump trying to bring peace to the whole world. Russia, Ukraine, funded by Russian oil sales. Iran funding 24 terror groups funded by Iranian oil sales. Venezuela was the hotbed of all the bad actors in the world encroaching in on a declining oil. Huge reserves, but declining oil production. But you had Hamas, Iran, Russia, China, all encroaching on Venezuela. So President Trump could be the first president that really understands and willing to take action, tying the fact that you can't separate energy from national security, and you can't separate it from our economy. Economy is going to be firing on all cylinders this year. Peace coming to the world, because President Trump understands energy diplomacy.
And you're right. And, the president has worked in terms of this whole affordability push to get prices lower. And that is a function of more oil on the market. So walk us through the plans in terms of Venezuela. We're going to talk with Mike Wirth on Monday about their plans in Venezuela, as the president is going to be opening up airspace to allow Chevron to get that oil and bring it back to the United States. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the plan is right now working, which is, again, the United States with the quarantine, really controlling the flow of products in and out for the oil industry in Venezuela. There's about 1 barrel that needs to go in for every 5 barrel that comes out. That diluent that helps blend with their heavy crude to get their production flowing, now coming all from the United States as opposed to foreign sources. That when that oil comes out, the U.S. In control of where it's sold, that oil coming out being sold on the global market for the first time. A lot of this oil from Venezuela was being sold in basically the black market on the dark fleets. And Venezuela had just become another one of China's discount gas stations. China, of course, building up the world's largest strategic energy reserves, because they're the most energy-dependent country in the world. I mean, 11.5 million barrels of oil a day is about their consumption. And there have been days in December where they were buying 2 million barrels above what they were consuming, just continuing to grow their stockpiles. But right now, with the President Trump and his plan on controlling the sales, controlling the revenue, that's what allows the collaboration with the current government in Venezuela, and it's what's going to help put this country on a track towards rebuilding their industry. Remember, Venezuela could be, Caracas could be the next Dubai under the right economic conditions.
That is unbelievable, really. And we're going to wait to see the fruits of that labor. The big story of the morning, obviously, is the president has made his decision on the chairman of the Federal Reserve. He posted about it earlier, writing, "I'm pleased to announce that I'm nominating Kevin Warsh as the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System." I want to get your take on this in terms of how easy it will be for the nomination process. You know, the Democrats are trying to stop him at every turn. Does this become more complicated getting his chairman across the finish line because of the probe of Jay Powell right now? What's your take?
Well, I think, again, you've seen how the Democrat minority in the Senate has operated. Whoever President Trump picks, they're going to try to block, and it doesn't matter really for what position. But Kevin Warsh, a fantastic pick to lead the Fed. President Trump had many great choices, including Kevin Hassett. I mean, the two Kevins, as they're called around the White House sometime, but having both of them on the team, Kevin Hassett on the National Economic Council, Kevin Warsh leading the Fed with his experience. I think this is going to be an economic dream team for the president. You throw in Scott Bessent, you throw in the rest of the cabinet with strong business and economic and finance backgrounds. There's never been a stronger team helping to drive the economy than right now. And Kevin Warsh is, like I said, he understands how the Fed works, but he's also aligned with the president on strategy. I certainly hope that for the country, that the Democrats will get him passed through quickly because his leadership is going to lift up the economy for every American.
Yeah, and the president also posted about Kevin Hassett, actually, I should say. And he says there was great speculation that the highly respected Kevin Hassett was going to be named chairman of the Fed. And he would have been great, but honestly, he's doing an outstanding job working with me and my team at the White House. So
exactly.
The president put that out as well in terms of all the short list there. Look, I want to get your take on what the Fed needs to do at this point, because I spoke with Kevin Warsh last year about the criticisms that the president had on the Federal Reserve, and I want to share that with you. Do we have that soundbite of Kevin Warsh? Okay, here he is. Watch this, Secretary.
The president's right to be frustrated with Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve. Inflation comes when the government spends too much. That's the spending you're talking about, and prints too much. The president took a good shot at putting the fiscal house in order through this tax bill. The U.S. is on the cusp of, I think, a radical improvement in our productive capacity. Why is it that money and financial conditions are so loose on Wall Street and considerably tighter on Main Street? Because the Fed has the policy mix exactly wrong. It has a big balance sheet like we're in the 2008 crisis or the 2020 pandemic, and has rates that are too high. It needs to shrink the Fed balance sheet and cut interest rates.
So will lower interest rates, how does that affect your portfolio in the Office of Interior?
Well, of course, Interior, if we were a standalone company, we'd have the largest balance sheet in the world. 500 million acres of surface, 700 million acres of subsurface,
wow.
3.2 billion of offshore, all the way from American Samoa to the U.S. Virgin Islands, all the territories and the countries of which we've got affiliations with, the COFA states, those are all managed under Interior. So whether it's the natural resources extraction across all of those represents really the power, what's powering America, both onshore and offshore energy. And of course, those industries, if you have lower interest rates, that benefits not only benefits every American because we're paying less on our debt, but it benefits every company that's working in these things as we work to build ourselves back into get back into the mining business.
Yeah.
Lower interest rates lift everyone up. So Kevin Warsh on that clip, exactly accurate on his assessment.
And thank you for the context there, because we've been talking about how the president is working overtime to limit China's stronghold on these things like critical minerals, including the acquisition of Greenland and gaining access to these key areas. We just spoke with the CEO of USA Rare Earth, Barbara Humpton, and a lot of this land where she's actually finding opportunity, like the area in Texas, these are federal lands, and mining is under your purview. Here's Barbara Humpton on the rare earth opportunity in Texas right now. Watch this. You have access to some of the richest areas in terms of minerals. Tell me about that. Is particularly this space in Texas?
This is a really important point. USA Rare Earth now has built an entire value chain from the mine all the way through to metal making and magnets. This mine that we'll be developing at Round Top in Sierra Blanca, Texas, is the richest known deposit of heavy rare earths in North America. Why do heavies matter? These are the critical minerals that make our permanent magnets that move motors, et cetera, more powerful and performing at high temperatures. These are minerals that are needed in semiconductor production. There are oxides needed for jet engine production. These are the high-value critical minerals that complement the light rare earths, which are lower-valued critical minerals in the supply chain. And this is the key to moving us forward.
Will this enable the United States to have less reliance on our number one adversary, Communist China?
Absolutely.
And that's the key, isn't it, Secretary? Because China leads the world in rare earths right now, 44 million metric tons compared to America's near 2 million. Greenland's 1.5 million. What do you want to say about this from a mining standpoint on federal land?
Well, you're right. One of the biggest strategic challenges we face as a country is closing this gap where China, if you take a look at the periodic table, take the 20 most important rare earth minerals, as Barbara was talking about, that we need for defense, for aeronautics, for automotive, and for technology. The top 20, 85 to 100% of the processing of those top 20 are done in China. So it's not just the mining. We've also got to get the refining and the processing back to America. We're doing that, as President has instructed us. It's not just drill, baby, drill. It's mine, baby, mine, and it's going to be process, baby, process. We've got to get all that refining back here. So we working, the National Energy Dominance Council, working with the National Security Council, this is a top priority. So the deals like you're seeing, like the U.S. making an equity investment in rare earths, just like with MP earlier this year, this is because China was flooding the market. An American company that wanted to get into the minerals business, if they would start to get traction, China would flood the market, crush the price, and crush those companies. Those companies didn't have access to capital markets. You couldn't get a loan, much less go public. And so restoring that faith for investors and creating a real market, and then doing that in conjunction with other countries, because we've signed agreements with Australia, with Japan, with South Korea, with Thailand, with Saudi Arabia around this, because essentially creating a block of nations that will have a trading agreement, a trading club, a club that China won't be invited to, where we can trade to create markets and then build up those store of things. And the critical mineral reserves that we need, that's as important as a strategic petroleum reserve. You'll see the president understands that. There'll be announcements coming about the U.S. creating strategic mineral reserves. And so that is exciting. So the plan is people are working 7 days a week on this right now, and this is just one piece of it. But from a standpoint of Interior, what we're doing is with the emergency orders is expediently putting together the permitting. So with Interior, we've delivered on environmental assessments and EISs, which normally take 1 to 2 years, in under 14 days and under 28 days. And some of that includes President Trump, beautiful, clean American coal, because in that coal, particularly you get out west in Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, lignite coal, it's got some of the highest concentrations of germanium and gallium minerals that we need in the coal, which is if you're processing the coal, then you can develop an extraction process for those rare earth minerals. So we've got it. We just got to get back in the game. Last thing I'll say on this is last year in America, we graduated 36,000 lawyers. 300 people graduated with mining and metallurgical degrees. If you want a degree that's going to pay handsomely for the rest of your life, we need more kids. We need more universities that shut down these programs. They shut down their mining and minerals programs. They've got to get back into it. The U.S. we shut them down.
I love that.
And people thought was because mining was dirty. What the U.S. does it cleaner, safer, smarter than anywhere else in the world. We have an EPA. We follow the rules in America. If you go around the world to where China was extracting these minerals, in the DRC and Malaysia, they're destroying those countries, child labor. You do not want to get minerals from China because there's no care around. The U.S. does it better. We should bring all that back home for all the reasons, economic, national security, and for taking care of our air, our water, and our soil.
Well, I love that you just said that, and that's really an important point for our viewers to understand that this mining business, metals and mining programs should be put back, and this is a real opportunity longer term. But I think one of the most important things that you're saying in terms of your efforts is how you've cut regulation
Yes.
and how you've made the permitting process easier. I mean, the interior, cutting timelines, cutting risks. I mean, giving policies that are giving pricing power and supply chains back to America from Beijing. Look, I poke the president from time to time. Oh, are you going to be an activist investor? I mean, what are you doing? You said you wanted to have the private sector lead, and here you are taking stakes. But I love it. I think it's absolutely so smart to have this acquisition strategy at the Department of War. What other areas do you believe are ripe for potential investments by U.S. government?
I just want to say one thing. It's an investment, not an acquisition, because we don't want the federal government owning 51% of anything. We don't want control. We don't want to control boards.
You don't want to be an activist investor.
Well, we want to be activists in that we're actually creating a market that works, and we're creating price floors that would allow investors to, if the capitalism to work. We want to create that security because we weren't operating. We were operating in a market where, with China's dumping, they were destroying U.S. opportunity for capital markets to work. So we want to be in there. But if we're in as an investor and we can, and Barbara said, hey, I don't need price guarantees, I don't need offtake agreements. Other people have done that. That helps us do that. And again, whether it's from Texas to Alaska, we are rich in a country with rare earth minerals. We just have to create a market that allows capital to flow back in. We've got the technology. We've got the capability. We just have to get in this market. I mean, we were within 2 weeks earlier this year of every automotive plant, not just in America, but in the world, being shut down because of China's, quote, export controls. Those export controls they announced was essentially the largest intelligence gathering effort ever attempted. I mean, the information they wanted, no public company would share with an analyst, much less, with the whole world, in terms of what are you using, how many units, is it for defense, is it for commercial, what's the size, what's your forecast, where's it going, who are your customers? I mean, that without President Trump's negotiating and putting a hold on that for a year, China didn't say we're not going to do it. They said they were going to push it back for a year. So we're still in a race on critical minerals.
And by the way, they're doing it to the United States, trying to bully us and keep us hostage to what they have. But they're also doing it to Japan.
Yes.
So they're doing it to whoever they can do it to. But let me get back to this whole acquisition strategy. And I know it's not an acquisition, let's call it an investment strategy of the Department of War. Are these stakes going into an overall sovereign wealth fund? The president talked about a sovereign wealth fund when he first took office. Is that where this is going?
Well, that's where all the talk has been. And again, with, our great Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, Scott Bessent, Chris Wright, myself and others. I mean, we look at examples and we say, wow, Alaska's got a Alaska fund, $80 billion. When I left North Dakota 13 months ago, there's about $30 billion on its balance sheet across the funds. Texas, so energy-rich states have been able to build up essentially their balance sheet and then use those. The funds in North Dakota, we had a $7.5 billion endowment just for K-12 in our small, low population state, big physical state, but low population. So the United States doesn't have that. And then we look at the countries in the Middle East. We look at Norway with their $1 trillion plus sovereign wealth funds. And people would say, well, if we had an extra dollar, wouldn't you use that to pay down debt versus create a sovereign wealth fund? Well, if you can invest in a company, in a rare earth company, and get warrants, and you put $1 in and it turns into 3 or 4 because of the actions the United States is taking, President Trump understands if the United States is going to issue permits, provide defense, do things that create value, then the American public should be getting a lift off of their investment. So some of these investments that have been made this year, like Intel and others, have had huge returns. So
yes, exactly.
So it is beginning. It is beginning. And if you took a vote across the cabinet, there would absolutely be the beginnings of a sovereign wealth fund, because then everyone would understand the government is investing on behalf of the American people. And when their tax dollars are going towards creating the security environment, like in Venezuela, we create the security environment. The value of all those resources are worth more today than they were on January 1st because of U.S. security. Shouldn't the U.S. citizens be getting a lift as part of that? So
smart to have a sovereign wealth fund and the efforts there. I mean, to me, it was very clear that this is where this is going. But I wanted to check with you real quick on energy before you go, because you've had all hands on deck. Oil, gas, I mean, everything, nuclear. And I want to get your take on this new initiative that you are doing at the Department of Energy to strengthen U.S. nuclear fuel supply chain. We've had a lot of nuclear startups on this program, and the department is asking states who's interested in hosting the nuclear life cycle innovation campuses. What does that mean? Is this a little bit of not in my backyard, where some states don't want it? Or what would support the activities across the nuclear fuel life cycle?
Well, first of all, I want to just say this is the first time since the creation of the Department of Energy that we have an energy secretary who graduated from MIT with understanding nuclear physics, Chris Wright.
And basically, like, authored or started the shale revolution.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. And he graduated from MIT when he was 20, by the way.
Oh, my God.
So it is like this. We have that understands that. We've got the 17 national labs all under DOE. Chris Wright's visited all of those. The amount of capital since President Trump signed 4 executive orders in the nuclear industry last summer, there have been a record billions and billions of dollars flowing back in, venture capital coming back in around small modular nuclear, and then changing the regulatory environment. I mean, the last one we built, it took double the cost, $30 billion, 15 years to build. China is building like 25 nuclear plants right now. On top of it, I mean, they're adding 86 gigawatts of coal again this year. 1 gigawatt runs Denver or runs Utah.
Wow.
I mean, they did 90 gigawatts of coal last year. They're on the AI arms race. We're leading in software. We're leading in the language models. We're leading in the chips. China's leading us in electrical generation. We need nuclear as part of the mix for electrical generation.
Yeah.
Chris Wright and his team helping to drive that forward, but it's still a few years out. I mean, it takes a while to get there. In the near term, we've got a real crisis in electricity, which was created by the past administration, shutting down baseload, shutting down over 100 gigawatts of baseload, and we saw that in the storm this last week. If we didn't have coal plants running during this storm in the Northeast last week, it was providing up to 25% of the power in the Northeast. We would have had blackouts across this country.
Such a good point.
Chris Wright, with his authorities under Interior, they forced 17 gigawatts, 17 Denver's worth of electricity to stay open that were under orders to be shut down by the Biden administration. So President Trump and his team, it literally, whether it's electricity, whether it's oil and gas, whether it's nuclear critical minerals, 180-degree different. And I don't want to say saving the country, but it's the foundation of this economy.
Are we going to see another squeeze on power this weekend? With another storm coming, perhaps?
Yes. We had, during the storm the last week, we had all the hundreds of billions that have been spent on the Green New Dream, as the Green New Scam, as President Trump appropriately calls it. There was times in the markets, JPM and others, where wind and solar were providing less than 3% of the power because of the I always say it was an AI race. It's gone to a power race. Yes. So we had in Vermont, we had more people burning wood during that storm than getting power from wind or solar.
By the way, I was in Permian Basin and I saw them flaring up natural gas because we don't even have the infrastructure in place enough to actually distribute that natural gas to meet those electricity. We could be talking all day.
Exactly.
Secretary, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be with you, Maria. Thank you.
Secretary Doug Burgum.